During the day, the Russian occupiers conducted 25 airstrikes and carried out about 30 attacks from multiple launch rocket systems on Ukraine. 19 combat clashes occurred. Source: General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook. Information is of 1800 on the 11th of June. Details: the Russian occupiers launched another large-scale airstrike against Ukraine on the night of 10 to 11 June, using Iranian-made Shahed-131 136 attack drones. In total, Russian forces conducted 25 airstrikes during the day. They also carried out about 30 attacks from multiple launch rocket systems on the positions of Ukrainian troops and settlements. Russian forces focused their main efforts on the Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka fronts. Heavy fighting are ongoing. A total of 19 combat clashes occurred on these fronts during the day. The operational situation has not changed significantly on the Volyn and Polishcha fronts. There is no evidence that Russia is forming offensive units there. The Republic of Belarus continues to support the armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine, and the training of Russian individual units continues on its training grounds. On the Severshchina and Slobozhenshchina fronts, Russia continues to maintain its forces in areas near the Russian-Ukrainian border. During the day, they conducted airstrikes on the settlements of Bilapila in Sumy Oblast, and Kolantev in Kharkiv Oblast. They deployed mortars and artillery to fire on the settlements of Seredina Buda, Fotovizh, Oleksandrivka Sumy Oblast, as well as Ivashki, Veterinarn, Streleka, Ternova, Staricha, Hatish, Vovchansk, Krul, Budarki, Buzov, Chuvunivka, Ambarn in Kharkiv Oblast. On the Kupiansk front, Russian forces conducted an airstrike in the vicinity of Berestov in Kharkiv Oblast. Kamyanka, Fyholivka, Vorokna, Zapadna, Kyslivka, Tabevka, Berestov in Kharkiv Oblast and Novoselivsky in Luhansk Oblast came under artillery and mortar fire. On the Lyman front, Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations near Bilohorivka. They conducted airstrikes on the settlements of Nevsky in Luhansk Oblast, as well as Ivanivka and Torsky in Donetsk Oblast. Nevsky, Novoselivsky, Bilohorivka in Luhansk Oblast and Yampolivka, Torsky, Verkhnekamiansk and Spern in Donetsk Oblast were attacked from artillery. On the Bakhmut front, Russian forces conducted airstrikes toward Teresk in Donetsk Oblast. The settlements of Rozdalivka, Vashukivka, Orikovo-Vasilivka, Ivanovsky, Bila Hora, Druzhba, Teresk, Zalians, Pivnikny in Donetsk Oblast were affected by Russian artillery fire. On the Avdiivka front, Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations in the vicinity of Avdiivka, and launched airstrikes there. They conducted artillery shelling of Orlivka, Avdiivka, Severn, Pervomaysk, Karlivka and Nevelsky in Donetsk Oblast. On the Marinka front, Ukrainian defenders repelled all 12 Russian assaults near the city of Marinka. At the same time, Russian forces launched artillery attacks near Krasnohorivka, Hostre, Heorhivka, Marinka, Hobida and Novomykhailivka in Donetsk Oblast. On the Shakhtarsk front, Russian forces launched airstrikes on Zolotaniva, Blahodatna and Neskuchny in Donetsk Oblast. They fired on the settlements of Vodian and Vuhledar in Donetsk Oblast. Russian forces are on the defensive on the Zaporizhia and Kherson fronts. They conducted airstrikes in the vicinity of Novoborislav and Kozatsky in Kherson Oblast. Occupiers carried out artillery shelling, in particular, of the settlements of Ramivka, Novosilka, Zelin Pol, Novopil in Donetsk Oblast, Olhivsky, Malinivka, Puliaipol, Zaliznikny, Puliaipilsky, Bilahiria, Mali Sherbeki, Stepov and Kamyansk in Zaporizhia Oblast, Oshakiv in Mykolaiv Oblast. Over the course of today, Ukrainian aircraft carried out 6 airstrikes on areas where Russian military personnel were concentrated. Units of Ukraine's rocket forces and artillery struck 2 command posts, 2 field artillery units, and a Russian radar station. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces reported on June 11 that Russia has lost 215,640 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion in February 2022, with an estimated 980 casualties on June 10. Heavy fighting ongoing in Donbass, threat of air attacks across Ukraine. Over the past day, 35 combat engagements took place in this sector of the front line, the General Staff said. On the Lyman section of the front, the enemy conducted unsuccessful offensives in the area of Bilohorivka on June 11. On the Bakhmut section of the front, the enemy conducted offensive actions in the direction of Bilohora, without success. On the Avdiivka section of the front, the enemy did not conduct any offensive actions. On the Maryanka section of the front, Ukrainian defenders repelled all enemy attacks in the area of Maryanka. On the Zaporizhia and Kherson sections of the front, the enemy is on the defensive. At the same time, the Russian army continues to shell settlements along the entire front line, using mortars and artillery in particular. Also, over the past day, the enemy carried out 92 airstrikes and conducted 45 attacks using multiple rocket launchers on Ukrainian settlements and positions of Ukrainian defenders. There were killed and wounded among the civilian population, and private houses were destroyed and damaged. In addition, the enemy carried out another missile and air attack on Ukraine yesterday, using 8 missiles and 35 Shahed attack UAVs. Ukrainian air defense destroyed 2 cruise missiles and 20 enemy drones. The General Staff notes that the probability of air attacks throughout Ukraine remains very high. At the same time, the aviation of the defense forces carried out 16 strikes on concentrations of enemy personnel and 2 strikes on Russian air defense systems over the past day. Ukrainian forces also destroyed 4 enemy reconnaissance UAVs of various types. Rocket and artillery units struck 2 control points, 5 concentrations of manpower, weapons and military equipment, 1 artillery unit at a firing position and 4 other important enemy targets over the past day, the General Staff said. Russia bans use of large quantities of ammunition due to self-detonation, General Staff. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, large batches of 122 and 152 artillery ammunition produced in 2023 have been prohibited for use in Russia due to their self-detonation. Source: Report of the General Staff of Ukraine. Quote, "The defense industry of the Russian Federation is affected by international sanctions. According to available information, large batches of 122 and 152 artillery ammunition produced in 2023 are prohibited for use due to their self-detonation. In addition, there is a deterioration in the level of providing occupying units with weapons and military equipment." Details. The General Staff also reports that recently, a lack of understanding of the tasks and goals of the so-called special military operation, this is how Russia calls the war in Ukraine, ed. has been causing low morale among the Russian mobilized personnel. Also, the morale of the Russian invaders is affected by the uncertainty of the timing of involvement in hostilities and their stay in the armed forces. It is also reported that due to unsuccessful assault actions and attempts to improve their tactical position on the Bakhmut front, Russian units of the airborne troops lost a large quantity of personnel.